Welcome to the Artwork of You, the podcast where your life is the canvas and you are the masterpiece. I'm your host, Lori Gouhin, and together we'll explore creativity, self-awareness, mindset, goal strategy, and the importance of accountability so that you can paint your life's portrait with confidence and ease. Remember, in the gallery of life, you're not just a spectator, you are the art. So let's grab our brushes and start creating the masterpiece that is you. Hello, my friends. I am so glad that you are here with me today because today I have a fascinating guest, my friend, Dr. Tyler Panzner. Dr. Tyler is a PhD scientist trained in pharmacology, cancer, neuroscience, and inflammation research, who has had a lifelong passion for understanding how substances affect the body. And while his scientific training spans well over a decade, his passion for genetics and personalized medicine started about 7 years ago, and he's pursued his goal of personalizing vitamin, supplement, and lifestyle protocols for each individual. He not only figures out exactly what your unique cells need, but also educates about which vitamins, supplements, and foods will clash with your unique biology. Using this approach, he believes that not only daily quality of life improves, but the risk for chronic diseases are greatly reduced. Dr. Panzner firmly believes that one's underlying genetic code dictates what the body needs to thrive. He's driven to genetically optimize the human experience of life through his holistic genetic health optimization practice. He is extremely passionate about personalized medicine and wants everyone to be able to thrive in life. Welcome to the Artwork of You, Dr. Tyler. I am so grateful to have this time with you today and to share your incredible work with all of my listeners.
Thank you for having me on. Super excited to be chatting.
Awesome. Even though I've told everybody I know all about you because your work just fascinates me. But for those out there who might not be familiar, can you share a little bit about who you are, your story, and your background?
Yeah, absolutely. So Dr. Tyler Panzner, as you mentioned, PhD scientist trained in pharmacology. And my doctoral training gives me the expertise in how drugs, substances affect cells. I was the guy in the lab coat working with the cells in petri dishes, working with mice, analyzing cancer from mice, all these things. And I became to realize that I didn't want to be involved with making yet another chemotherapy drug or another pharmaceutical. So I left conventional medicine and entered the holistic space. And I'm not here to say that all medications are horrible, but I do think the vast majority of anxiety, depression, sleep, ADHD medications, I think they're just Band-Aid fixes for underlying cellular issues. If you were to think of your number one health ailment that's holding you back from thriving, what you're thinking about is caused by cellular dysfunction at the end of the day. Now, that can stem from poor lifestyle, diet, infections, stress, but at the end of the day, it's these cell signaling pathways that tell our cells how to behave. And this is what I'm an expert in. So my job is to look at your DNA, your genetic code, and look for misspellings in that code. So let's just say, for example, a gene is a segment of DNA that makes a protein. Proteins do all the functions in our cells. It's how our cells can live and function and how we survive each and every day. So let's just say the gene that makes the protein that makes vitamin D in your skin from sunlight. It doesn't happen from magic, right? There's always a cellular process that does everything in our body. The gene that turns cholesterol into vitamin D in your skin, that can be mutated. It's mutated in me. It's mutated in a lot of people. And what do you know? That misspelling in that gene is linked to not only lower vitamin D levels throughout people's lives. Makes sense, right? Because if you're hardwiring that protein, that worker, to not make as much vitamin D, then why wouldn't it do that, right? So we know in studies, this is linked to lower vitamin D levels in humans. And it's also linked to many different vitamin D related diseases like Alzheimer's disease or Parkinson's or type 2 diabetes. So my approach is if we could figure out which molecular steps, you don't make as much vitamin D from sunlight, you likely need to supplement throughout your life to get those adequate levels. So I stack as many of these, I call them holistic genes, but they're just regular genes. But I say holistic because they can be supported naturally. I worked for a cancer company that was sequencing cancer cells to figure out what drugs they need. But I'm like, why don't we make sure our cells need what they need so they can stop becoming cancerous in the first place? So that's my approach overall. And I'm really focused on educating my clients. A lot of people take supplements. A lot of people take the wrong supplements. What could help one person could really mess someone else up.
Wow, that's incredible. Was there any pushback from your peers and colleagues?
Yeah, so my PhD was in the lab, and I mentioned I worked for a year and a half at a clinical genetics company. And at that point, I actually got laid off on my 30th birthday, ironically enough. But I was already planning on moving out of that at some point. I already started this business on the side, so I already knew what I wanted to do. It was a scary jump, but I'm sure that my boss or mentor for my PhD program, she was telling me I love the creative aspect of doing the experiments, working with the cells. It's not that I hated doing that. I was so far away from feeling like I helped someone's life. Sure, I may publish a study about cells in mice, but like that may never actually make it to humans. So I wanted to be involved where I could really see the impact I'm having on people. So when I was laid off from that genetics position, there was no pushback. It was very corporate. So it was like, all right, they just cleared house. As I've done this holistic stuff, there have been some peers that I've met on Instagram that are scientists that end up unfollowing me because what I do, it's ahead of where science is at. And to a lot of people, it could seem too good to be true. I've been called a quack. The doctors that really innovate, they're always labeled as quacks before it's accepted as medicine. And I'll never claim my approach can cure everything for everyone, right? But I really, truly believe it can help anyone feel better because every one of you listening right now has genetic mutations that we could support naturally. You have tens of thousands of them. My job is to figure out which ones are the most important for you because you can always support another gene or take another supplement, but I don't think anyone should be on 30 different supplements at once.
Do you ever see consistent things across the boards? And is there a reason?
Yeah, absolutely. We are all different, but we're all humans, right? So our DNA is very similar. I talk about similar mutations every single day. The question is, do you have 2 mutations in that gene or do you have 12? So you see how it could be more. If you have 2 mutations in a gene, I may say, hey, we could try this. But if you have 12 in that gene, I'm going to tell you, we have to start you on this right now. The genes I focus on are fairly common. That's why I believe I can help anyone feel better. It depends where they're stacked up. Do you have several more moderate risk gene mutation profiles, or do you maybe have a few that are a lot more drastic? People are different, but I do talk about a lot of similar genes each day because we all have the same genes that do the same functions, right? It just depends where are the mutations stacked on. 10 mutations makes that protein work much less than if you have 2. So they stack on top of each other to figure out what is the most glaring weak point for your biology.
I was out last evening with a few women, and several of the women in the group, I think there were only 7 of us, several of them were on thyroid medication, and one was thinking of being put on thyroid medication. Is that something that you come across?
Yeah, hypothyroidism, particularly Hashimoto's. A lot of my clients do have that, and it does affect primarily women. They're not exactly sure why. My personal belief why it affects primarily women. Women are exposed to a lot more chemicals, whether it's the makeups, the perfumes, possibly cleaning products, and these toxins, they affect our cells. They can affect our thyroid. So I'm sure there's other factors at play, but that's one thing that I've seen. And low vitamin D is linked to hypothyroidism. It's linked to Hashimoto's. It's linked to autoimmunity. So I'm not going to sit here and say just the vitamin D supplement will cure your thyroid, right? It's not that easy. But my approach is if low vitamin D is linked to it, you have that. If high levels of this toxin is linked to it, you have that. If this other thing is linked to it and you have it, you can have, let's say there's 10 women all with Hashimoto's. And for you guys listening, that's an autoimmune condition where your body attacks your thyroid. So it leads to a sluggish thyroid, one of the most common autoimmune diseases in the country. And if 10 people, 10 women, let's say, some of them may have, think of like a pie chart. Maybe vitamin D is a larger percentage of their issues. Someone else may have Hashimoto's with normal vitamin D levels. So there's different flavors of any disease. There's many different causes or contributors to a disease. Which mixture are you specifically subject to? And my job is to figure out what are the top 5 or so aspects genetically that are the most disrupted. We could support that. Example I like to give is gluten. Gluten consumption has been linked to Hashimoto's. I've had a lot of people with Hashimoto's. They go totally gluten-free. Their thyroid antibodies go down and their thyroid levels can improve. Maybe you don't activate thyroid hormone as well. Maybe it's this, maybe it's that. So I could go on forever of all the what ifs, right? But my job is to assemble them in a way that's digestible for you and that I think we're going to address as many things as we can naturally, rather than just relying on that thyroid medication, which really is a Band-Aid fix. It definitely can help people, but we want to understand why isn't the thyroid working properly in the first place.
I know a lot of doctors, they'll just run like a routine blood work test or maybe an in-depth blood work test. I've never come across a physician that's saying, let's check your DNA. Let's see if you have any mutations.
Yeah, it's a more emerging science. We've been using genetics for years, for a long time now, but it's not the first line. And of course, I am biased here. I think the genes should be done first because it can save you so much time and money by getting clear-cut answers. Even if those answers don't fix everything, you can get instant answers. What if I could guarantee you're going to get 20% better in a month, right? It may not be everything, but a lot of people would be chomping at the bit to get 20% better. And part of it too is who's going to be paying for the DNA kits. Sadly, since what I do as a head of science is that there's I can't be covered by insurance. And also too, a lot of these companies, they give you a DNA kit for $300 and a big report, but you're so confused. You're very overwhelmed. You don't know what to listen to. So that's why my approach is to work with a lower number of people in a much more in-depth fashion to really tie it all together for you. They're not trained in genetics in medical school, let alone the way that I look at genetics, how well your skin makes vitamin D from sunlight, how well you activate it. When people think of genetics, they think of a scary cancer mutation, right? They don't think of it as, I don't make vitamin D as well.
And I think I remember you telling me at one point, your body maybe makes too much histamine or not enough histamine.
Yeah, so histamine, a lot of you guys may have heard of Claritin, Allegra. These are antihistamine medications. They block histamine signals from your body. It helps with allergies. They also use antihistamines for anxiety and sleep medications. So let's think about this. If a drug that blocks histamine helps with anxiety and sleep, what would too much histamine do? It could make you anxious, can make you restless, can be linked to anxiety, depression, psoriasis, eczema, arthritis, you name it. It causes inflammation in the body. So I had brain fog throughout most of my life till I was probably 27, 28. And turns out mine was due to very high histamine. And the worker that breaks down histamine in my brain doesn't work quite as well. So I'm throwing out a number here. Let's just say the worker works at half speed. So it'll be that much harder to break down my histamine. So things I'm allergic to, certain foods that I ate, I was having pickles, tomatoes. These were giving me brain fog. They were giving me headaches. Who would have ever thought that? And a lot of people I work with, headaches or brain fog, I tell them, limit these, remove these, or the apple cider vinegar I was having. Everyone talks about how good it is for you, but it can do good things in the body. But for my unique body, the high histamine is a net negative for me. So I'm not here to tell everyone never have apple cider vinegar. It can help a lot of people. But yeah, so I break that down slower. It's easier to accumulate higher for me. So now I learned my body, I don't have brain fog at all anymore. But if I eat a certain food, I could feel it in my head. And I'm like, okay, what did I eat? I know how to reverse engineer that. And that's something I try to educate my clients about. I don't just want to say, here are the pills, take them, right? Whether they're natural or not. I want you to educate and be educated and understand the language of your body.
I also heard you speak about curcumin. That was all the rage for a while. I'm not sure if it still is, but how that can be detrimental. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So curcumin is the active component of the turmeric root. Been used in India, Indian medicine for centuries. And without a doubt, it is a very good anti-inflammatory supplement. Absolutely. But again, what I do is it's not just one thing. What else does it do? It also pulls iron out of the body, out of your cells. So if you have very high iron, like my wife has hereditary hemochromatosis, so genetically higher iron, we have her take that because it helps lower her iron. But doctors, coaches, they do not know this affects iron. So they use it for inflammation. And let's just say you're anemic or borderline anemic or even normal iron levels, not high iron. It can deplete it even more. Women usually have more anemia than men. I work with a lot of women. Their hair is falling out. Their nails are brittle. They're exhausted. They don't know why they have no iron. They're getting iron infusions. And I look at their supplements. Their naturopath had them on high doses of curcumin for their gut inflammation. And I'm like, oh my good God, if only you knew, you're wasting money on the iron. You're pulling it right out of your body in the first place because it's not written on the bottle. It can also slow down the breakdown of adrenaline, so it can make people feel more anxious as well. And again, I'm not saying this is great for everyone or bad for everyone. It just depends on the person. And you asked before, it absolutely is still all the rage now. It's used, you look on the bottle, brain health, gut health, antioxidant support, but what else is it doing? But they should write lowers iron in the body. Are they going to write raises adrenaline? Probably not. It probably won't sell. Because at the end of the day, these supplement companies, they're companies, they're businesses at the end of the day. So people act like just because it's a natural supplement company, it's all, they're going to let you know about all the risks and stuff. They don't even know the risks of these supplements because there's no education required to make supplements, to recommend them. It's the Wild West here.
Yeah. And it's so true. And people don't think of side effects with supplements. Yes,
No,
with medications all day long, but not with supplements. They're either, oh, it's working for me, it's not, but they don't think it's maybe doing something detrimental. Are there any
yeah.
other ones that people might be taking regularly and not even
Yeah, I know.
realizing?
Yeah, I know quercetin is another one as well.
That's a
Tin
new
is
one too.
used. Yeah, quercetin's used a lot for histamine. So I took quercetin for my allergies. It helps with histamine. I felt great for about an hour or so. I remember this vividly. I was at a conference during my PhD program. I was so anxious. I had to leave the conference. I was having panic attacks because it also raises adrenaline. I was up till 6 a.m. I was like shaking. I was psych. Luckily, I looked up what it did and I knew what was happening to me because I'm a scientist, right? But imagine how many people take that. They don't even connect the dots. So I've had people come to work with me all the time. They're taking quercetin, they're taking curcumin, and then their iron is low or their adrenaline's high. They don't know why. So that's one as well that I see that's very common that a lot of people take. And then I'm trying to think of another one for the iron stuff here. I know milk thistle is another good one. It helps with liver's function, but it also can pull iron out of the body. So again, if you're having low iron or struggle with iron issues, you want to be very mindful if you take these supplements. But again, 99.99% of health professionals don't know this. And that's why I'm so loud and proud about my mission, because these things really do cause harm to a lot of people. You just don't hear people talking about it.
Yeah. What about magnesium?
Magnesium overall is, I think, a very safe bet for a lot of people to try. Now, there's a lot of different types of magnesium. I personally like magnesium L-threonate. So that gets the brain. Most magnesium types can't cross the brain very well. So I'm a very more prone to stress, anxious guy, go all the time. I got to quiet that brain down. So I like this a lot to help quiet down my brain, help with my sleep. And there's different types. Magnesium glycinate's a good one as well. People could take some different blends. I think magnesium is a very safe bet. Most people are deficient in it. So that's when I think it's a pretty low risk that I think anyone could try supplementing with that without any major risks. But again, some people, it's supposed to calm them down. It revs them up, right? So as long as you're mindful about what you're starting in your body, I'll start my clients on many supplements at once because I dove very deep and cross-reference them for them. But if you're just trying to mess around with supplements on your own, I would not do more than 2, maybe 3 things max at once that you're changing, because you could be on 3 supplements. 2 of them are very good for you. 1 of them is working against your body. That one bad one can outweigh the 2 good ones, and you feel worse, and you have no idea why.
Such important work. Is there any case that comes to mind that was really unique? Somebody came presenting with certain symptoms and you were just shocked at what the results showed, or?
Yeah. So I had a client that was diagnosed bipolar type 2 and was on medications for a bit over a year. She felt much worse after starting them. And turns out, looking at her genetics, her cells make higher amounts of ammonia. So ammonia is a waste product. All of our cells make it, but her genes that make it work a little too good. So she makes a little excess. This could be linked to very odd neurological symptoms, anxiety, loss of memory, confusion, intense mood changes. And this individual, and also your urine or sweat could smell like ammonia. If you ever smelled ammonia, it has a very distinct smell. I asked her, does your urine smells weird? She goes, yes. None of the doctors know why. We get blood work done. Her ammonia is very high in her blood work. Long story short, turns out she didn't have bipolar. She had ammonia toxicity.
Wow.
So she was on the medication for the wrong disease, wrong label, wrong diagnosis, cut her off the medications, gave her a few supplements to help her clear her ammonia, and then she was cured because she didn't have bipolar. And I want to be very clear to everyone listening. I'm not saying bipolar is not a real thing. It's absolutely a real thing for many people. But this individual's mood changes, they labeled as bipolar because they weren't familiar about the genetics, about this ammonia connection. So that was one that I remember I made a post about it. I did, quote, cured bipolar depression, because I didn't cure it because she didn't have it in the first place. But that one was a real eye-opener for me. Wow, doctors are missing this and misdiagnosing psychiatric disorders when it could be as simple as look at the genes, check some blood work, and take some natural supplements.
Have you come across any doctors that are willing to work in conjunction with you?
Yeah, absolutely. And when I work with people, especially when people are on medications, I work with a lot of people to get them off of anxiety or depression medications. I do encourage, I want to have the doctor, the prescribing physician on board because I am not a replacement for a medical doctor. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a scientist. So very different. But I do have some coaches and doctors that love the science. This is really cool stuff. There's a lot of other ones that are like, this is BS. We don't even believe in this, even though it's very weird for them to dismiss the whole field of genetics. But they just don't want to learn because they're so busy working, right? It's tough because these medical doctors that a lot of people bash, they're so swamped and busy seeing 10, 20, 30 patients in a day. They don't have enough time of day to give you the time of day. They don't have enough time in their schedule, let alone now they have to go home and learn more. They're working around the clock, right? So I always tell people, don't blame the doctors, blame the system. The vast majority of them want to do well. They want to do their best, but a lot of them can also have egos. So they're exposed to new information. They're like, no, I don't want to listen to that because I just want to keep doing what I'm doing because that's what's comfortable for me.
That makes sense, unfortunately. If you don't mind, let's transition into your whole entrepreneurial journey because
Sure.
I don't know a lot about that, but I met you, I think, right at the beginning of that, about a year and
Yep.
a half or so ago. And I just remember you were just so full of life and so excited. And I was so enthralled with what you were doing. And to see you just starting out there to how successful you are now and all the people that you are helping is just really phenomenal. So, can you share a little bit about how that went and maybe any obstacles along the way, how you use
Oh
your
yeah, plenty of
creativity to
obstacles.
create? Okay.
Yeah.
Because a lot of my
Yeah.
listeners are entrepreneurs. So I'm sure they want to
Yeah,
know all the
absolutely.
things.
Yeah, so like I said, I got laid off on my birthday, mid-November, and I had 6 more, I think, yeah, I think 3 more months to like work, but I knew at mid-January I was going to be let go. And it was really scary. That was when COVID was a lot more of a thing. My wife, she got let go as well, so she was in between jobs, so it was very nerve-wracking for me. Do I get another salary job right now while I build this on the side? Do I just go all in on it, period, and just see how that goes? I met you at a Craig Siegel's event, and he
Yeah.
was one of the first people when I first met him, he was like, I just sensed something about your energy. I think you should go for it. But him, other people I spoke with, maybe decided, you know what? If not now, then when? Back then, I just turned 30. I have my wife, I don't have kids or anything. So if any time's the time to go for it, now would be the time. And I just started very small. And I also had the business going for 6 months before then. I started, I think it was like $100 for a session. And it was just whatever little bit just to get my foot in the door to start seeing people because I work with a lot of friends and family. Friends and family, they're much more likely to tell you they feel better. But how does that work with people that are paying you money that don't know you? So I was confident in the work, but still a little nervous, right? Is this going to work as well as I think? And bit by bit, I just started very slow. I haven't raised any money at all and just really wanted to start very slow, keep the overhead low and just see where it goes and just getting feedback and believing in myself. And it's progressed so much quicker than I ever could have imagined. And I'm so blessed and grateful, but I still doubt myself all the time. It's getting better, but I really haven't been in my comfort zone for the past 2 years or so. And sometimes being out of your comfort zone feels pretty shitty, right? That's like by definition
Yeah.
there. So
Uh-huh.
I've learned now that when I feel the most scared, to lean into that fear, because as I've been leaning into that fear and thinking bigger, good things have been happening. There's been a couple little losses along the way. This course didn't work as well or whatever, but big picture view, just reminding myself that I'm doing what I love. I'm living life on my own terms. And again, really believing in myself and just recognizing staying out of that comfort zone really has brought so much more good into my life than bad. And it can feel overwhelming with all these different opportunities that may present themselves, but really just trying to keep the blinders on and stay really focused overall. One of the downsides has been the pros and cons of being the startup owner. I'm wearing all the hats. I'm doing everything myself. And it feels great having that control. But where I'm at now is I see so many clients. It's just very hard for me to have the bandwidth. All these emails come in, this or that. So I'm really looking to try and figure out how to scale a little bit better, hire a team, hire some help. I'm sure that'll help a lot because starting to feel little bits of that burnout come on. I've just been seeing all these one-on-one clients for like 2 years or so now. I love what I do, but there's got to be a way to serve a higher number of people. Even if I can't change their lives as dramatically, you can either help a lesser number of people much more dramatically. That's how I've been doing it. But I also want to be able to touch the lives of a lot of people at scale. Even if it doesn't completely change your life, that little piece of information I give you, maybe you feel 10% better. Maybe your headache goes away, right? And that's where trying to figure out how to navigate that, right? Which decision to take? What's the next best step for my business? And I'm an overthinker. So I'm very much paralysis by analysis. And I've really been just trying to remind myself, just take a step in some direction. And even if it doesn't work, you got your whole life ahead of you. You still have a successful business with the one-on-ones. That's not going to be going anywhere. And try stuff out. And people always say, if you F around and you find out, that's a lot of people say. And that's something I've been thinking of lately. In order to find out, you got to go F around. And that's what I've been trying to remind myself, that one of the things that Craig Siegel taught me was take messy action too. I'm a perfectionist, recovering perfectionist, but trying to take action and move things forward, even if it's not perfect, because you could take time building the perfect thing. Maybe it won't perform as well or sell as well as you think. And you put all that time into it versus maybe testing something that's less than perfect just to see if the market responds to that. Then you could always build from there.
Absolutely. I like to follow the model that done is better than perfect. And as Craig
that's
also says, clarity follows action, right? And that's great. Yeah, you move in one direction and see how it all unfolds. And you can always pivot if you need to. The important thing is to take consistent action and keep the end goal in mind and just keep moving towards it as best you can. So are you training others to do what you do?
Yeah. So I did a 3-month holistic genetic health mastery program where that was 25 people, healthcare professionals in training, even just like non-credentialed biohackers, people that want to learn more. That went really well. Plan on launching that again sometime soon to really make the most change. I have started doing that, but also I don't have a textbook to do what I do. People ask me, what books do you read to do what you do? I don't really read books. I read papers, I read studies, and I connect the dots in my head. So I worked with hundreds of people, but I want to see thousands of people before I really try to educate at scale, right? Because I know what I'm doing, but at the same point, I'm always learning. Okay, I'm going to try, based on the genes, I thought of something new. I'm going to try this supplement for that type of issue. I've never done that before. I have to see how people respond to it. And this is why I love utilizing all natural things, even if it's not the right thing for you. If it's a natural supplement, what? Maybe a day you're nauseous or a little anxious. You stop taking it, you'll be good the next day. It's not like a medication with a lot worse side effects. So I can be a lot more exploratory. Of course, I use the data. I'm recommending a supplement you could already buy on your own. Millions of people already buy and take that supplement. So there's not as much risk involved, which I like a lot.
So do you experiment on yourself a lot and your wife?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And being a biohacker throughout my life, I've messed myself up a good bit. Nothing like serious, but I'm saying there's been some days where my wife will notice that you seem anxious. Are you all right? I'm like, yeah, I just tried 2 supplements that didn't really work well together. And she'll ask me, what can I do to help? And I'm like, honestly, nothing, because this is not like I'm having a bad thought, bad day anxiety. This is a hardwired biochemical imbalance from the supplements. So not much you could do. Love you, but thanks. I just got to maybe take a calming supplement and just ride it out for the day. So there's been plenty of that along the way. I learned from myself, my wife, some of my close friends too. They're always open to being guinea pigs because the vast majority of the time it works out well. But yeah, it's always a pursuit of knowledge for me, trying out new things. This makes me feel this way. This makes me feel that way. I like this. I'll save it for a rainy day. Maybe I'll take this every day for a few months before cycling something else out. So yeah, that chase of novelty is something that really motivates me.
I love it. And is there any particular supplement company that you recommend? Or do you specifically work with one company?
Yeah, so I like the Pure Encapsulations brand, Seeking Health brand, Allergy Research Group's brand, Source Naturals. I don't have my own supplement company. Those are some of the major brands that I'll utilize with my clients. Sometimes for more boutique type supplements, might not be one of the major type brands that may not have that, but I do have a list of certain brands that I do know, support, trust, because a lot of people will try to get supplements off Amazon, save a couple bucks. You got to be very careful about that because a lot of companies, let's just say you're buying from Pure Encapsulations. You want to make sure that the storefront on Amazon is literally Pure Encapsulations because a lot of people sell a fake product, but it's not coming from the company. It's not coming from the manufacturer. So I've had people get sick on moldy supplements or tainted supplements. They're trying to save an extra, I don't know, $30 a month. And I'm like, guys, you really got to be very careful. If you go on Amazon and it's literally the manufacturer as the vendor, then go for it. But most of the time when you're saving a couple bucks, it's not coming from the manufacturer. That's a big issue I see in a lot of my clients.
Yeah, that's scary. I use Pure TheraPro. Are you familiar with them?
TheraPro, it sounds familiar.
Pure, yeah, it's Pure TheraPro. They're pharmaceutical grade, made in
Oh,
the
yeah.
US.
Yeah, I see this one as well. It's one of those things too. Yeah, this is a good brand. One of those things that there's so much overlap. For any one product, you could have 50 different brands, right? You gotta know which ones to pick, but I've seen this one before. Yep. Yeah, this is GMP tested as well. Yep.
Great. Where can people find more about you that possibly want to work with you? Just hear a little bit more about your work. What's a good place?
Yes, at Dr. Tyler Panzer on Instagram, Panzner. So there's two N's sandwiching that Z there. I'm on LinkedIn as well, Facebook, TikTok, and www.drtylerpanzer.com is my website. And I have mainly do the one-on-one work right now, but really looking forward to building some other type of educational platforms for people to continue to learn in bite-sized bits.
Awesome. It was so great having you here. I truly appreciate your time.
One quick thing too, I'd love to offer your listeners a $100 discount code to work with me. What would you want that code to be? Would you maybe want to do Lori so people know they're coming from you?
Oh, yeah. Good idea.
Yeah. Okay. We'll do that. Yeah. So LORI, we'll do Lori. And for you guys listening, that'll save $100. It pretty much covers your DNA kit for the deep dive. Happy to offer that. And thank you so much for having me. I hope you guys listening got some little nuggets of information.
That's a wrap for today, my friends. Thank you for sharing your time with me. And remember to show up in your life like the masterpiece you are, because you are the artwork. Please subscribe and leave a 5-star review. Have a fabulous day.